For the lesson today, we'll be learning on elements, compounds, and mixtures. At the end of this section, you should be able to define an element and state the chemical symbols for a number of elements. What is an element? It is a pure substance that cannot be broken down into two or more simpler substances by chemical processes. Is sugar an element? Sugar is not an element. This is because sugar can be broken down into carbon and water vapor. Since sugar can be broken down, it is not an element. All elements are made up of particles called atoms. Atoms of a particular element are identical to each other but different from all other elements. Is water an element? Water is not an element. This is because water can be broken down to give hydrogen and oxygen. Let us take a look at this video to see how water is being broken down into hydrogen and oxygen.
If we connect an electrolyzer filled with distilled water to a source of direct current, we can observe a slow evolution of gases. After some time, we notice that the volume of the gas released at the cathode is double that of the gas formed at the anode. To identify the gaseous products of the reaction, we collect each gas in a test tube and check its behavior in the presence of a glowing splint. The characteristic cracking sound proves that the gas released at the cathode is hydrogen. The ignition of the glowing splint is evidence that the gas collected from the anode is oxygen, which supports combustion.
Next, let us look at the periodic table. The periodic table can be found on the second page of your textbook. In the periodic table, you will be able to see the chemical symbols of elements. Chemists use chemical symbols to represent elements. Each symbol is unique, consisting of one or two letters. The first letter is always a capital letter, and if there is a second, it is a small letter. Each symbol is unique. For example, calcium is with a capital letter C and a small letter A, and hydrogen is with a capital letter H. However, the chemical symbol of the element does not necessarily follow the first letter of the element. For example, sodium is with a capital letter N and a small letter A. Now, pause the video and use the periodic table to find the symbols of the following elements. You can check your answers. For the next section, let us find out more about atoms and molecules. An element is made up of tiny particles called atoms. Atoms are the smallest particles of an element that have the chemical properties of that element. The atoms of an element are different from that of another element. In the periodic table, the elements in group 0 are monoatomic elements. Mono means one, and monoatomic elements are elements that are stable as single atoms. What happens when atoms of elements join together? When atoms of elements join together, they form molecules. A molecule is a group of two or more atoms that are chemically combined. Elements like hydrogen, oxygen, ozone, and sulfur exist as molecules. Molecules of elements contain the same atom. For example, oxygen gas consists of oxygen molecules, each with 2 oxygen atoms chemically joined together. O2 is the molecular formula of oxygen. Oxygen gas is a diatomic molecule. Di means 2, and oxygen gas is a diatomic molecule because there are 2 oxygen atoms chemically joined together. Gases like oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen are diatomic molecules. Elements in group 7 of the periodic table also exist as diatomic molecules. Lastly, let us look at polyatomic molecules. Polyatomic molecules consist of 3 or more atoms that are chemically combined together. The common examples are ozone, phosphorus, and sulfur. To sum up, you have learned to define an element, state the chemical symbols for a number of elements, and the differences between atoms and molecules.